we have completed all of chapter 10 or no, not? So I'll differ.
No, yeah, we are continuing our discussion with chapter 10. I just, all right. So we can read this. Let me just stop here. Okay. Om, do you want to read?
The the Yadavas were rolling in plenty. They had no lack of grain or gold, and their wives, they were models of virtue, faithful and devoted. They never deviated from the wishes or commands of their husbands. They couldn't bring insult or discomfort to their lords from any quarter. How then could faction and internecine strife raise their hands so suddenly among them? Arjuna replied, my dear brother, we see the outer circumstances, the process that result in the final event, and in our ignorance, we judge that this set of causes produce these effects. We guess the nature of emotions and feelings from what we gauge from events, but circumstances, events, emotions, and feelings are all simply instruments in his hand, serving his will and his purpose. When the moment comes, he uses them for his plan and brings about the fight he has willed. He is the embodiment of time, Kala. He comes as the master of time, and through some denouement of the plot, he finishes the drama, that which brought about birth, brings about death too. He finds reason for both in the same degree. Do we seek to know why there was a birth? No, then why seek to know why death occurs? It occurs, that's enough. Reason finding is a superfluous occupation. He causes being to create beings and he causes beings to end beings. Bodies get born, bodies die. Nothing more serious happens at birth or death. This was taught us often by Vasudeva. Why then should we doubt or deviate from the steady courage he sought to give us? You might say that it is not just that he who caused us to be born should be the person who kills us. Between birth and death, man does have some capacity to earn merit and demerit, and this has some influence on the course of events. Within these limits, the Lord plays the game of football with birth, death, and life. Birth and death are two high cliffs between which the river of life flows. The force of Atmic faith is the bridge that spans the chasm, and for those who have developed that force and faith, floods are of no concern. With Atmic faith as their safe support, they can reach the other bank, braving all the dangers. O king, all this is but a grand puppet show by that master director. The Yadavas today, like the Kauravas yesterday, had no individuality of their own. There is no use blaming there either.
Either. Yes. Thank you so much. So, yeah, that was just a little bit of the chapter. Of course, the chapter refers to how Arjuna bringing the news of Krishna's demise, and that's where this, when I guess Yudhishthira starts questioning on why Yadavas behaved the certain way before Krishna's passing, and they killed themselves. That is when Arjuna gives this response. So a few questions that I had just put. Obviously, this is not, do all of them. But why does Arjuna say reason finding is a superfluous operation? If that is so, then how can we as man can act without finding the reason? What kind of reason should man then focus upon? Because we are beings of reason. We generally find reasons to work on, right? Work with. The last one. The reason.
So this is a beautiful, I want to go through this whole thing again because this is the whole essence, I feel. But here, when we are talking about reason, I think he is like when there is, for example, I'll give an example. Somebody is walking in a street that I know, a friend of mine, and I look at her, she looks at me, and I do not, I smile at her and she does not smile, right? And then I say, why didn't she smile at me? I mean, she might be completely occupied in herself, right? And not seen as a. So we are trying to find a reason as to why she did not. That kind of a reasoning. The reason why we are living and the purpose, the reason, I think that's not what he's talking about, Arjuna. He's talking about the other things as a reason, right? That is none of our business. That's what I think he's focusing on.
So, Sairam, the questions when something goes right
Yes.
or wrong, right? Why did this happen to me? Why did that reasoning you should not go into? Because how do you know why it happened? Only God knows whether it is the effect of your previous karmas or you're sowing a new karma for the future. That's very hard to determine a lot of times, and you'll always be caught in that turmoil of trying to figure out. So instead of that, just do what you, I mean, we always talked about it, do your duty selflessly, and don't get attached to anything, and just that's what he means by that reason, not like
Finding the reason.
for day-to-day work. That's not what it means, when
Yeah, because all these reasons are not going to be black and white. I mean, I am just so you're never going to find the answer. You're trying to go. It's a wasted effort because there is no point in trying to dig in as to why it happened. Because the fact that it has just happened, you can try to interpret, because it's all question of our own perceptions and the other person's perceptions and so many things coming in between. So you can never find the real reason. And the best is to just accept that and then move on and just surrender. Say, I think that is the thing, because as he says, the divine master has willed it. The master has willed it, and so it will happen. So if you just accept that, I think that is the best.
Yes, Bhargav.
But the thing that I'm concerned about is the reason we try to figure out a reason is so that if we can improve ourselves and try to fix whatever the mistakes we might have caused or whatever we can try to do to improve. For example, if someone didn't smile back, maybe I should have done something different to show that person smiling. Or if some other bad situation happens, maybe I could do something better. So how would you reconcile that if we're just told to forget the reason?
This is mainly for birth and death.
it's not for every little thing that we shouldn't find a reason. So we should look at life as if you're looking through let's say a small telescope at the sky, you're looking at whatever the parameter of the telescope is, and making judgments and making reasonings and whatever. If you take a bigger one, suddenly you see more. So now you can make more reasonings and more, and imagine the entire universe. How much will be happening? Our vision is very limited in trying to understand how life's workings happen. But in day-to-day life, yes, yeah, it may, not in that sense, like in the nitty-gritty, stuff, or I mean, she gave that example, but not doesn't pertain to those small things, right? Like how you behave. Yes, be mindful, understand what the other person wants. Not in that. When calamities happen, or that's when you start thinking, right? Oh my God, I did everything right. Why did this happen? That type of reasoning you should not go into, is what the
Yeah, I
essence of
think,
it.
okay, go ahead.
Sairam, even if you know the reason, many times you find out what went wrong or whatever, are we changing anything? Sometimes we make the same mistake, knowing the reason also we do the same thing because of habit or whatever. But here the underlying thing he is trying to say is to have faith only. There are things science cannot explain, this thing cannot explain. You have to realize there are some truths. Then rest of it is just talking to find reason, because we are using only our mind. Mind is kind of limited. It doesn't understand everything. Okay, there are some things beyond the mind, the truths. Sometimes that's what here he is talking about beyond time, space. So then you have faith and you just accept it, that kind of a.
Yeah, I think this chapter is kind of disturbing overall because it kind of questions your whole life and everything. Like
Yeah.
what Arjuna is talking about is, the Yadavas, were always leading a very good life, very, everything was
Yes.
going very nicely, and Krishna is
Suddenly,
fully aware of it, and that's why I wanted to know if the chapter is over, because even at the end of the chapter, it kind of says, Krishna says, you say, when he just leaves,
yeah.
and then he's finding that he's not able to do anything,
Yeah.
and so in that being the case, this is with God, with him, with with all that, all these calamities happening. What are we? That is what the question that comes. The answer, it seems to me, like the only goal, like, and I talked about last time, was you just do good, like Shobhaji said, we have to just do our duty, and we have to do it, without expectation of any result. That's the only way that we can remove the accumulation of the karma. And as long as we, good or bad, even if you have a good karma, you have to come back and take the benefit of that. And in that process, you may create some bad karma and then come back again. So I think that seems to be the thing. Whatever we happening in our life, we cannot find blame. We cannot find reason. You have to just go with it. That's what.
So I would like to answer Bhargav's question as to the reason, right? So if the reason is for you to change in a positive way, then certainly that is that. But if you are trying to figure out why that person, I mean, judging that person and trying to say that, oh, that person is really so and so or such and such, using it in a negative way is not productive at all. So in that thought process, you don't look at all those things. Okay, do just assess ourselves and see, is this the right path? Is this the right thing that we are doing? And then go with that. And then stop asking for reasons. That's my thought.
Yeah. So as Shobhaji mentioned, our vision is so limited. We we have a kind of tube vision. Whatever we are seeing, we are trying to interpret through that. He is asking the question, why didn't we question about the good part? We are questioning about the negative part only. Why did I get good birth? We never question about that. Why I'm born in a rich family? We never question that part. Good part, we never question. Bad parts, we always question. Why the death happened? We never asked why the life happened, to begin with. So as we are maturity or wisdom grows, we realize it's much bigger than what we see, much more bigger than. And the second aspect of the same thing from the Vedantic point is, good or bad, whatever you can do, instead of getting into the reasoning, if you can improve on it, improve it. Do your best, do your beauty, improve it. Why that happened? Obviously there's a scope of improvement, you do that, but do the best to improve it. That's the key.
Yeah, I agree with Manojji. Yes, only when we grow up, we realize, yes, we have to improve more. And then whatever may happen, good or bad, just take it the way it comes. We cannot help it. Yes, Swami is there, just pray.
We get a story, 1 minute story in Vedanta. If you're sitting under a tree and a snake falls in your lap, what will you do? Would you go for reasoning, or will you get rid of it? You get rid of it immediately. Throw it away, throw your lap, run, do whatever. You don't go into reasoning why the snake fell into my lap. That was the.
Good one. So then I actually thought about these questions, but again, this is what he said here. So the metaphor of Atmic faith as a bridge spanning the chasm between birth and death illustrates the importance of spiritual resilience in facing life's challenges. So that's how he has said. So I am asking, how does that even, how does that impact our spiritual resilience between birth and death? And what does this suggest about the role of inner strength? How much do we need to kind of have that inner faith, when we have obstacles and uncertainties? I don't know if I'm making sense or I've complicated, because this chapter is so complicated in my own head, honestly. Because all this time I was thinking, oh, Arjun is somewhere else. Now, yes, last study circle, I was like, okay, now Arjuna is also like one of us, trying to understand the entirety of being. So that's why I guess my whole idea now is, what made life easy for them at the end of the day, right? It didn't make for Arjuna, or they are also exactly what, yeah.
So, Sairam, I think let's not judge the Pandavas just based on this. So basically, this is also is a divine play. We have to realize that the whole Bhagavatam itself is a lesson that is for everybody else. So whether Arjuna was spiritually evolved and yet decided to act that way, Pandavas themselves, or whether this actually happened that's not the thing that we should go in as per this chapter itself. We should not go in to try to reason why Arjuna did this or Dharmaraja did this. Let's not go into that. Let's learn the lessons from that and then see how we can adopt it or learn from that.
So that's what I'm saying. So initially my lesson was, oh my God, Arjuna was able to be with Krishna. So he has said but that is not the case right now in this chapter.
Just
that is
based on this chapter is what we can say.
Yeah. That's
But
all I'm talking
still,
about.
we cannot judge Arjuna's spiritual level based on this. Let's not go into.
No, it's not about the spiritual level. It's about how they have handled the calamity, is what this is. The chapter is about how they handled loss of Krishna. That is all that I am. That is the piece that I'm totally with you, Shankaranji.
Yeah.
When you
So
said that.
actually, Venkat, what we talked about Arjuna last week and what we see here are two different Arjuna. Actually, yes, first there we thought, he's just like one of us. He's also behaving like that. But actually, he is showing a lot more spiritual advancement in this part of the chapter. He actually says, this is what is happening. Everything is his play. So he really understands that. And what the question that is really bothering us a lot is, the Lord is there and all these are happening, and all of them are happening in a sudden way. And he, even with all that faith, how do you handle that thing? That's what the whole chapter is all about. And I think Arjuna brings that out very, very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this part. Yes.
Yeah, Sairam. So this is a great way to look at life, right? Like we were saying, the whole life as like a small movie. Birth, death, what happens in the middle. That's what we're all going through, right? So it's important to keep that perspective all the time. Like what is happening to Arjuna is happening to us too. There are moments in our life when we are deeply, in tune with Swami, we feel like spiritually elevated. Then something nonsense happens and we are talking this and that, and then we are going at the low level also. And these ups and downs happen, and those are the floods. Those are the things that happen in everybody's life. That's why they compare it to a river, right? The flow, the ebbs, the floods, this, that, disturbances, all will happen, but ultimately it will go and merge in the ocean, which is our final moksha. So have that perspective and then decide which way you want to navigate. All these are going to happen. If you don't have that faith to stand on, you're going to go whichever way, your mood will strike. You'll go off in the depression mode, or you'll go off in the high manic mode, or whatever. So people who don't have it, they can get deviated. And then the subsequent lives and subsequent karmas. But who have that faith, who have a clear vision of how to lead their life, will be more steady. That you will cross it more steadily. So that vision we should have, definitely. I'll give you one example.
Yeah.
How Vishwamitra realized this. Initially Vishwamitra was like just a king. And he used to be very proud of all his powers and thing. He thought no one can defeat him, this and that. And then once he goes to Vasishta's ashram and sees Kamadhenu.
Yes.
He wants the Kamadhenu.
Right.
He says, I will,
Yeah.
he'll ask, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, give me the Kamadhenu, I'll give you whatever you want. And Vasishtha says, no, Kamdenu doesn't go anywhere.
Yes.
And then he wages a war and he loses completely. Everything that he had, he loses. And then that's when he realizes, this Atmic, that Shakti is much superior than anything else. So he'll go back, do penance. And from Rajarshi, he becomes Brahmarshi, finally, from severe penance and
Right.
severe giving up all that, control our senses, everything, he becomes that. Because he realized that is the ultimate goal, that is the ultimate strength. So we should also keep that in mind and do, behave accordingly.
Okay.
So answering these questions is tough, but I should congratulate Bhavaniji to create such questions.
No, that's
That's the
because of
bigger part.
ignorance.
You know,
It's
oh,
right out of
because creating these questions you must have dig into so well. Okay. We yeah, want to go to the basic level. Why the wise men brought these theories of bhakti yoga and gyan yoga? Why wise men made these theories? What made them create these theories of bhakti yoga and gyan yoga or karma yoga? To keep your morale up. That is the key of all the theories, all the philosophies. Finally, what Krishna is doing to bring up morale of Arjuna by surrendering to Lord, that's also to bring up your morale. By Jnana Yoga also, that the thing is, this is all delusion, you have just do your duty. They are trying to remove the negativity when you're going to depression. By putting all the theories lead you so that you can always stay elevated. You should not don't get depressed about anything.
But it's not the consequence. The consequence right now seems to be the man is feeling more low than what he's.
The
I agree with you from the level of knowledge. I understand what you're saying. But what we go through is generally lows.
because we lose our that level of stability. That's why we go low. If we stay in that mode, we will not go low. That is the whole philosophy behind it. We will, so that we don't go low. That's why these theories are created. That stay at the atmic level, all Brahma Tattva. Don't get envy. Don't hurt anyone. Don't harm anyone. Stay stable. So to lose your morale, that is the worst thing. Anyone to keep it elevated, always elevated. The bhakti yoga and the Brahma and the Atmic faith. By Atmic faith, you will always stay elevated. You will never go low. You will never feel depressed. Think over it. That's what I.
Yeah.
I was thinking of all the contemporary holy people we know, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and these were all an example. They were absolutely unaffected by their cancers. And actually, the bhaktas told Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, ask Devi to help you. And he didn't have a individual self. There was no ego. And once there is that is there, then it's all a puppet show. It's all a drama. He's not part of it. He's just watching. And that is probably the example. We have to be, it's very hard, even the Bhagavad Gita, no raga, no dvesha. It's, you have to be like centered, like you were saying, like Kutastha, absolutely attached to the center. And that will help us, I think, with sorrows.
So I was also going to talk about Ramakrishna. And Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, when he was battling cancer, and he was in the last stages of the cancer, and one morning he came out and his face looked really tired. And the devotees said, what happened, Master? And then they said that I'm having a lot of pain. He said, you are an elevated soul. You are having, he says, yeah, this mind is there, right? As long as the mind is there, this pain will be there. But once I control my mind, this pain disappears for me. I'm not able to feel it. But when I leave it alone, it tells me that there is pain. So even these great people go through this so-called this, but as Shobha said, if we have the pain, if we have the faith, we won't go into the pieces of depression or this kind of a very excited stage. we will be in that kind of equilibrium. And same thing happened with Vivekananda too. He went to one village where there was famine, and he was upset about it, right? Then he saw the beauty in that also. So we have to know that life is not going to, if you have taken life, life is going to have more downs than ups. And so only the faith is something that, can help us navigate this whole thing in an equilibrium, if I may call that.
Yeah. So talking about some of the, if, local from Richmond, Rod Laver, the tennis player, he made a very beautiful. I mean, his speech is fantastic. So he got HIV and then cancer, and finally he passed away. So when people are asking him, why you get all these things, and he said, there are, he started off, there are about 50,000 tennis players, who play tennis in the world. Out of that, about 5,000 go into the tournaments, about 500 get into this thing, and finally, one person wins. I was one of those who won it. I never asked, why me? Yeah. So, but why should I now ask, why me? So that, I think that is where we don't have to go too far. I mean, this, right? There are people like
Yeah,
that.
he got no HIV because of blood transfusion. Yes, Atharash. Yes, yes. See, in our everyday life, okay, let's talk about us. Where does the inner strength come from? That's what her question was before. We can read all we want, we can discuss all we want. And then the time comes when we go through something difficult, physically or what, financial, whatever. So that is the challenge. How do we practice at that time? That is the test we are going to take. So all the knowledge, it should help us, but sometimes it doesn't. It fails or we fail. Okay, why? That is where I want to focus. Why not able to practice, right? So this is where I feel that as individual, we should focus to lay the solid foundation for us. It's like, I would say, like a tree you plant. We planted some trees. If they take root, it should be strong and go in. If it is not, it's a shallow rooted. The first wind comes, it is going to fall down. So our root, what we have to do is based on all the, satsang or reading or whatever, our faith, our strength comes from that. I hope that will help us when we go through the calamities. That is where we have to use our intellect, our knowledge, and most important, our faith, in some superior thing, and then hope that it guide us. So, yeah, people who didn't read anything, who doesn't know anything, they handle this old age, disease, financial collapse. They handle it so much better than people who are a pundit. They're not able to do it. So there is something in it other than the knowledge itself, I feel.
So if you look at the creation, all the living things happen random. Nobody has control. Nothing has control. Things happen suddenly. But no other living thing looks for a reason. Look at the animals. They die. They don't care. And if something happens, all the basic instinct is a survival. That's all they know. Like if a forest is caught fire, they will run away. But they don't think why the forest got fire, this, that, they don't care. Except the humans. Because we are evolved, now we look for everything a reason. And that is the reason why we need to have an anchor. Like, random things happen in anybody's life. And no matter how well planned, anybody can plan anything, no matter whatever they plan, there are things they will not be able to control. You may be a billionaire, or you might have the entire world's wealth, or you might be most powerful person in the world, but things happen to you and you can't control that one. You don't have control on it. So then what happens? You lose the balance. So to keep the humans in the balance, you need some kind of support system. Or the wise people, as uh, Manojji said, they thought, okay, what is the best way to keep the person in the balance is give him some kind of hope that there is something that is taking care of you, either Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. You choose whatever the way you want. So they choose one of that one. So Bhakti Yoga, completely surrender, things happen. Okay, fine. So fine. Swami is there. I will just pray him and things will go on. He is not out of balance now. Jnana Yoga, now he thinks, okay, there is something power, and then I am there, I am him, and he is me, and this is all Maya. I don't care. So either way, he is in the balance. That is the reason why these two anchors are required for human beings, because we are the only people look for the reasons. That's what I feel.
Sairam, I'll put it here in this context. Three things again that we talked already about. What we're doing now in study circle is Shravana. We are just listening, okay? You leave it here, you listen, it goes the other way. There's no question about it, no question at all. You listen, you go home, you don't think about it, it's gone. It's gone the next day. So many things have gone like that if you didn't pay attention to them, right? Manana, so important, right? You keep on, you pick one thing and keep thinking about it 10 times. Suddenly it gives you a different reflection altogether. So many meanings will come to mind. So that will give you some, faith in it. That's where faith will build from manana, not Shravana. Okay, Shravana, so much you are hearing. Where's the faith? No. Then comes the Nididhyasana, the meditation part. That is the Nididhyasana actually. Okay. You know why that is important? That is where conviction is formed. Your faith will be firm then. Only with that. You don't do these three steps, nothing will change.
Yeah, I totally am with you. Yep. Shravana Manana
Was mentioning like people when it will get old, will be in those circumstances, how will we face them? This is all definitely a preparation for now and for preparation for those times. So as much as we can prepare, rather train our mind at this stage, how to tame the mind, as well as how to, I mean, taming as well as keeping it calm, keeping it, occupied in good stuff and not getting distracted. How much we can train it now will not only help now, will help later on also. And how do we train now is what Shobhaji has already explained.
Yes.
Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasan, repeatedly thinking, and to that level. So in the Vedanta, they always talk about find the reasons why this is true. Find the various different reasons why this is true. I'm not this Sharir, I'm Atma. Find different ways to prove it. Once you start proving yourself with your own reasoning, that will be your substance. And find the reasons why the other thing is not true,
there.
not there. By repeatedly doing it, your mind is getting trained into that, and that will help you not only now but in the later stage also.
Yeah, Saira. So we'll just move on to the next chapter, I think, because this similar continuation of the story. So because we have a few minutes, I just want to make sure that we finish the listening to the chapter at least. So with that, I'm hoping this one, yeah, we'll come back to it because the next one also has the same. Which one? We talked about the puppet show
No,
before.
the grand puppet show. I'm talking,
Yes.
not the puppet show.
Yeah. No.
The grand puppet show is because this is a thing, something which we try to always escape behind this sentence. Let's be very careful. We always try to hide and escape behind this. This is all grand puppet show. Have you done your best? 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 If you have not done best, then you don't have a right to say, oh, this was the grand puppet show. I'm just part of this show. I'm a puppet. No,
Right.
no.
So we have read in the chapter, he has given you enough powers to try to change it,
Yes.
so.
Yeah. And yes, and we have talked about it. That's why I didn't go back to this question, but your point is very well taken, Manojji. Thank you. All right. So let's move along.
Bhagavatha Vahini, Chapter 11. Pandava's Grief. Dharmaraja, who was lost in contemplation, recapitulating the advice, the help, the grace, the love and sympathy they had earned from Lord Krishna, suddenly raised his head and asked, Arjuna, what did you say? What calamity overtook you on the way? Tell us in full, dear brother. Arjuna looked his brother in the face and said, Brother, all my skill and attainments have departed with Lord Krishna. I am now without any powers, incapable of any achievement, weaker than the weakest, indeed lifeless. This most unlucky fellow didn't have the chance to be with the Lord Vasudeva when he left his abode, even though he was in Dwaraka at the time. I had not earned enough merit to get the chance. I couldn't have the darshan of our Divine Father before he left. Later, the charioteer of the Lord, Daruka, gave me the message that the Lord had given for me when he departed. In that message, he had written thus with his own hand. Saying thus, he took out from the folds of his dress the letter which he considered more precious even than life, for it was from Krishna and written by his own hand. He gave it into the hands of Dharmaraja, who received it reverentially with anxiety. He pressed it on his eyes, which were full of tears. He tried to decipher the writing through the curtain of his tears. It began, Arjuna, this is my command. Carry out without demur to the full. Execute this task with courage and earnestness. I have accomplished the mission on which I had come. I shall no longer be in this world with body. I am departing. 7 days from today, Dwaraka will sink into the sea. The sea will swallow everything except the house I had occupied. Therefore, you have to take to Indraprastha city the queens and other women who survive, along with the children and babies and the old. I am leaving, placing all responsibility for the women and other Yadava survivors in your hands. Care for them as you care for your own life. Arrange for them at Indraprastha and protect them from danger. Thus writes Gopala on leaving for his home. Dharmaraja finished reading. He noticed that Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadeva were shedding copious tears, squatting like rocks, oblivious to everything else. Arjuna said, Brother, I had no desire to live for a moment more without the Lord in our midst, and so I resolved to drown myself in the sea that was to swallow Dwaraka. I decided to split my own head with this bow and die, but this command forced me to desist. The order from him who ordains the universe tied me to this earth. I had no time to plan out any action. Everything had to be done quick. So, I got the last rites done for the dead according to the Shastras. Then, in great anxiety lest the sea swallow Dwaraka before the women, children and old people were evacuated, I hurried them to come out and started for Indraprastha as commanded by Krishna. We left Dwaraka with no mind to leave it. We managed to reach the borders of Panchanatha with heavy hearts on account of the absence of Krishna. But I was urged forward by the need to obey the divine injunction to carry, according to that injunction, the burden of those people. The sun was setting. We dared not cross at that late hour a flooded river that impeded our progress. So I decided to encamp at the bank of that river for the night. We collected the jewels and valuables of all the women and kept them in a secure place. The queens alighted from the palanquins and maids scattered themselves for rest. I approached the river for the evening rides, dragging myself along with the sadness of separation from Krishna. Meanwhile, pitch darkness pervaded the place, and soon we heard wild barbarian war cries from the surrounding darkness. I peered into the night and found a horde of forest-dwelling nomads rushing upon us with sticks, spears, and daggers. They laid hands on the jewels and valuables. They started dragging away the women, binding their hand and foot. I shouted at them and threatened them with dire consequences. "Why do you fall like moths into fire?" I asked them. "Why be like fish that meet death, craving from angler's worm?" I told them. "Do not meet death in this vain attempt to collect loot." I warned them. "I imagine you do not know who I am. Have you not heard of the redoubtable bowman, Pandu's son Arjuna, who overwhelmed and defeated the 3 world conquerors, Drona, Bhishma, and Karna? I shall now dispatch the whole lot of you to the kingdom of death, with a twang of this bow, my incomparable Gandiva. So flee before you meet destruction, or else feed with your lives this hungry bow," I announced. Nevertheless, they went about their nefarious task undismayed. Their cruel attack did not abate. They fell upon our camp and dared to attack even me. I held myself in readiness and fitted divine arrows to efface them all. But alas, a terrible thing happened. I cannot explain how and why. Of the sacred formula which filled the missile with potency, I couldn't recall a single one. I forgot the processes of invocation and revocation. I was helpless. Before my very eyes, the robber hands dragged away the queens, the maids, and others. They were screaming in agony, calling me by name. "Arjuna! Arjuna, save us! Rescue us! Do you not hear us? Why are you deaf to our cries? Are you giving us over to these brigands? Had we known that this would be our fate, we would have died in the sea like our city, Dwaraka." I heard it all in terrible agony. I saw it all. They were screaming and fleeing in all directions, women, children, and the aged. Like a lion whose teeth have been plucked out and whose claws have been sheared, I couldn't harm those ruffians. I couldn't string my bow. I attacked them with the arrows in my clasp. Very soon, the stock of arrows exhausted. My heart was burning with anger and shame. I became disgusted with my own pusillanimity. I felt as if I was dead. All my efforts were vain. The great, blessed, inexhaustible receptacle of arrows had failed me after Vasudeva had left. My might and skill had gone with Krishna when he left from here. Or else, how did this misfortune occur of my being a helpless witness of this kidnapping of women and children entrusted to my care? I was tortured on one side by separation from Krishna, and on the other, the agony of not carrying his orders. Like a strong wind that fans the fire, this calamity added fuel to the anguish of my heart. And the queens, those who were living in golden palaces in the height of luxury, when I contemplate their fate in the hands of those fierce savages, my heart is reduced to ashes. O Lord, O Krishna, is it for this that you rescued us from the danger in the past, to inflict on us this drastic punishment? Arjuna wept aloud and bat his head against the wall in despair, so that the room was filled with grief. Everyone shivered in despair. The hardest rock would have melted in sympathy. From Bhima's eyes, a stream of hot tears flowed. Dharmaraja was overpowered with fear when he saw him weeping so. He went near him and spoke lovingly and tenderly to him in order to console him. Bhima came to himself after some time. He fell at Dharmaraja's feet and said, "Brother, I do not like to live any more. Give me leave. I shall go into the forest and immolate myself with the name of Krishna on my lips and reach home. This world without Krishna is hell to me. He wiped the hot tears with the cloth in his hand. Sahadeva, who was silent so long, approached Bhima and said, "Calm yourself. Do not get excited. Remember the reply Krishna gave Dhritarashtra that day in the open assembly when he had proceeded to negotiate peace between us."
So that was how this chapter ended, and I don't have the last last piece of that out here. So that is where chapter 11 had ended for with this story. So with that, again, this discussion continues. The only reason being that how does Arjuna's loss of power after Krishna's departure reflect the deep bond between them? Is it because of that, or is it because Krishna is so divine that maybe Arjuna had the I-ness, and that is one thing. That is the story that I remembered when I read this. But at the same time, I mean, it could be because he's just so much in grief that he truly forgot, because that happens to that's human behavior in a lot of ways, right? Yes, please go ahead.
I think it's more than that. See, the thing is, it only shows that all that Arjuna could do was because of Krishna. So the moment Krishna left his physical form, Arjuna is nothing. Is just as Manoji mentioned about that. I forgot the name of that Barbarik. Barbarik, who watched and saw only Krishna's chakra and Krishna there throughout. So it is all that. So we have to believe, I think, coming back to this one, we all have to believe that we are just instruments. So if we just take ourselves as instruments, so the instrument is nothing but should not have its own individuality. For example, the dolak cannot do anything of its own. It can only be played by a person. So if we can treat ourselves as instruments where we don't have that ego and completely firmly believe that it is the divine master who is going to play, then the moment that master is not there, which means that the faith is not there. When there is no faith, nothing will move. You can't do anything. So that is how I interpret this essence of this chapter.
Very well said, Sairam. Thank you. But that also brings us to the next piece, and that is, I think, the essence of what I wanted to bring out in this chapter is processing grief. Okay, so I think that we all face grief. It is inevitable. But how do you deal with that? What are the qualities that we should have to process, or what will help us in the process of that grief? When what are the qualities that can help us?
I think the surrender. I mean, the moment you complete total surrender, then the grief will be just like, see, Swami has said that many times. In fact, he has displayed, he has shown when somebody has been living with Swami in the physical form for so many years. When that person left the physical thing, he was not affected by it. It was just a matter of fact, because death is just that. Anybody who is born has to leave one day. So if we do that, then the grief part of it, I mean, if we go to that level, so it depends on the person, and it is challenging though. No, but it can be done, I think.
Slowly, it will fade. That is what I think.
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember at the time of grief is to know that it is also temporary. At some point, the night will end and the morning will begin. It cannot be permanent, but that's where you'll get into trouble, thinking that is like a permanent state. Oh my God, everything is going to, falling apart. Nothing will happen. That will also end and something else will happen the next day, So remembering the impermanence of it is going to help a lot. And then do whatever you need to do, of course, at the time.
See, that might be easier when the person is old, aged, and all that. If a young person, no, if a young person dies, a parents or grandparent, how do they take it? They cannot say everything is impermanent. That it depends on what stage you are at life and what stage the person who dies leave the body. So it is not universal. No, the grief is very different, right? Different death, a different kind of death brings different kind of grief. I used to think I would be mourning my mother's death, but I was happy to say that she died in very peacefully in her own bed, in her own house, the way she wanted. That gave me a lot of comfort. Also, when we are in satsang like this, we are attached to the body, mind. So we develop that attitude, the body, okay, we believe in reincarnation also. So we just hope that person who dies, will get a better one or mukti, don't come back in life. But grief is very different. I would say it is very different person to person, situation, and how they die, all that. We cannot generalize and say, this is just the body, it is gone, That is what I think. Yeah, but then acceptance. Acceptance plays a very important role when we deal with grief also. Yeah.
So we
Themselves, if they want to die, and then what is
No, one of my great aunt, no, my great aunt used to say, she was 80 plus. She said, is there a ladder for me to go up, climb up? I will do that. I'm not like a bug. You can smash me like that. But what are you saying? If it is time to go, it will go. That's all.
so yeah.
No, no, don't say that.
So yeah, so bhakts and gyanis both will be affected by the grief and sorrow. Everyone will be affected. Till the time we are in this body, we all will be affected. Take it granted, whoever that would be. So only thing is that it will not stay long enough. That's what we are trying. So just because we are Gyani, we're not allowed to cry now. Just because I'm Bhakt, I'm not allowed to cry now. I'll be, rigid like this. We are all human beings. So even if you will pretend, no, I don't have to cry. I don't have to cry just because I'm a Gyani, I'm a Bhakt. No, we have got heart, we have got mind, we have got all these emotions. Only thing is that it will not be like we put a strong line on a rock versus strong line on a sand. We have to become strong line on water. Line on the rock will stay for years.
Right.
On water, it will disappear in few minutes. In sand, it will disappear in water, it will go like this. So we have to develop to that thing. We will get affected. The line will be visible because we're in this body, but it will go away soon.
Nice example.
Yes. One example, like with respect to grief, where like acceptance is one thing that helps, because both my real example again, both my mom's side and my dad's side, they're both my grandparents. I didn't have granddads. We lost them a while ago, but they both lost their sons in a middle age, like, which was a extremely big, shocking thing. One happened when I was in 10th grade on my dad's side. And the other on my mom's side, my grandma lost her son like when I just arrived US. So the entire, like, that side or this side, it was like a huge disturbance when you lose that. But I think we all were as a family disturbed, but what I could relate is the acceptance at that age of both my grandmoms that build the whole family together. And that is what an example where it helped the whole family together to support that family. And that's where it started. come back, not else.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
See, like Vivekananda said, right? Kings die, papas die, sinners die, saints die, learned die, and ignorant also die. But then we keep going thinking we live forever. That is the Maya. So we have to go through this in life. We have to understand. One of my family member, my cousin, she lost her daughter and son-in-law in a plane accident. He was piloting private plane. They were very close, mom and daughter. We thought she will die, but she didn't. She's still living. This happened 10, 15 years ago. So we have the resilience also, like Raji was saying, I want to go. But it is not in our hands. But we just see that nothing is permanent and we live our life keeping that in mind. You know, this will also pass.
We are at time almost.
Oh.
But yeah, finish it. Finish your.
No. Kasturi, he
Yeah.
he lost his son.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, the soul came and left. That's the thing, you know.
Yeah.
And one of the other Swami's devotee, Swami said, you go. He lost his son. He didn't tell his wife also. He took.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So they are all there to teach us some lessons.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. We'll end today with Om and Three Shantis. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all for your participation.